Well, you've probably noticed that I've been spending more time on this 11-passenger Yellowstone Park stagecoach than I have on my 8-passenger. And there is a method to my madness. I'm trying to get this body put together to the point that I can put it in primer, and then I'm going to set it aside and focus more on my 8-passenger, because that 8-passenger wants to go to the museum. You can see I've got the trim work on this right side panel. I have the right rocker installed again, and I have all the iron work installed where we step in for the passengers. We've already talked about these bumpers here to keep the luggage from chewing on the back body of this coach, and there's going to be a platform that comes out. There's some hinges that have to be installed underneath, but there is an iron on top that has a hook here that's going to be bolted through this framework. That's going to come down and carry the weight of that platform. Well, who knows how much weight is going to be on that luggage, so this iron transfers that load forward to the frame of the body. And this rod here, which is about a 1/2 inch, is kind of curved out to give as much shoulder room to these passengers as possible, and then it has to be bolted to the framework of the seat. Well, where this iron passes over the frame of the seat, in order to get this to mount up to the framework, I have to kind of notch this out to recess this back in. So there should be just kind of a little round notch that I need to put in so that this will fasten up to this. Well, this outside hole is only about 1 inch in from the edge here, and we need it to miss this screw. So I'm going to clamp it kind of in position where I think it's going to go, so I can get a measurement where it has to be notched in through the seat frame. So this iron should come and just almost touch to this seat arm. And I don't want to bolt that on top yet, because when I notch this in, it's going to move back about 3/8 of an inch and adjust that hole. So I need to make a little groove for this to fit in there. So we have a screw right here that is at about 1 inch. So I'm going to come over closer to 1.25 inches here. This is where that bolt needs to go. So I'm going to bring it over about that position, and hopefully we can miss that screw. So since I had to pull this top into position, I have a little bit of stress in this rod. It's not bad, but I'm going to take a torch and heat it right down in here and kind of take that tension out of it. So theoretically, I should be able to take this clamp off. It should stay right there. So this is where my bolts have to come out. And in order for the head to clear this back panel, I'm going to have to drill this at a little bit of an angle to get it to come out to that iron. It's going to have to be about like so, I think. And this is where sometimes a long bit gives you a little better sense of direction. Well, there's 3 bolts that need to go the same direction. So there is another rod that fastens to this bolt here, and will go down and bolt to the main frame of the coach. But I don't want to put that in because I'm going to put some fabric matting in on these panel sections here, and I don't want it in the way quite yet. So that's the right side. I still need to do the left side. And I really don't like working on the back side because my light isn't as good. I'm going to turn this thing around. A little better light this way. Well, it seems like the left side should be just the same as the right, and it should be, but I think this was dropped somewhere in its handling. So we have some irregular bends, and if I just kind of put that kind of loosely in place, we're hitting this iron here, we're off of the seat arm, and we're further away here off of this arm rail than we are on that right side. So I need to do some adjusting on this iron. It should be just a nice continual flowing curve, and that other one just isn't. Has kind of a sharp curve here, and then it just kind of not quite straight, but it doesn't have that nice flowing curve that the right side has. Well, that's a much nicer fit, and I like the flow of that. You know, straightening out old irons, sometimes they fight you all the way, and sometimes they just kind of fall into place. And this one just kind of fell into place. It worked out pretty well. So these are the 3 hinges that go on the bottom curve of that back panel that holds the luggage rack, or sometimes called the boot. This one is the center. These follow in line with the bumpers on each side. The holes are about the same right here, and on the old back it looks like these are about a 1/2 inch apart from the bumper with that metal plate that comes down each side. So these are the bumpers I'm referring to, and they fasten to the frame inside that corresponds. And this should be about a 1/2 inch apart, so this bolt is just going to miss these screws. And this is going to bolt to that same framework that this bumper is fastened to. This is where my first bolt is going to go. So if I fasten the two outside hinges, then I can run a rod straight across and position that center one to where it lines up as well. Well, it looks like I'm really close to that screw right there. I might just miss it, but I guess I could just take that out. Yeah, I would have taken about half of that screw head out, wouldn't I? It's going to want to follow that old screw hole. Use my iron to kind of hold it in the right place. Well, it should line the hinges up. So this is something I did different than the original ones. The originals had a screw here and also a screw down here. I left this bottom screw out because as I looked at the old ones, this bolt was right in the way of that screw, and sometimes it took half of that screw out. So I assumed this bolt would be more than sufficient than any screw, so I only put one screw in. When these coaches were running in Yellowstone Park, that total time frame of the horse-drawn era was possibly 30 years. But it's highly doubtful whether any single coach lasted that long. The lifespan of these was probably somewhere between 5 to 10 years, maybe max. Isabel Haynes kept a ledger of the coaches that they bought and also a record of the number of coaches that they sent back, either to have bodies rebuilt or new body replacement built. Sometimes wheels were shipped back. And you know, I have had a number of people come in over all the years here and are kind of dismayed on why coaches don't last that long out here. Part of the reason of coach failure in that time in the regards to these Yellowstone coaches was some due to rough roads, some due to turnover. They were notorious for turning over because of the thoroughbrace sling. How much that thoroughbrace dipped down was also the same amount that it could go up. So if they took a corner too fast, the coaches were notorious for rolling over. So hence the repairs. But due to wear and tear, time, I think the biggest factor on failure in these coaches was humidity. These coaches were built by Abbot-Downing in Concord, New Hampshire, and I looked up some statistics about average humidity. And what I found was in Concord, New Hampshire, the average humidity, these are averages, is about 70%. In Yellowstone Park, it's about 40%. So when they came from the East Coast and they came to spend their life out here, within a year, they were tires getting loose, cracks were showing up. Humidity was a big factor, or out here, the lack of humidity. So in Death Valley, as a comparison, relative humidity is 12%. You know, the average rainfall in Concord, New Hampshire, I found out is about 44 inches. The average rainfall in Yellowstone Park is about 20. Here in Joliet, we get 11 to 15, 13 to 15 in that area somewhere. Remember when we sent these Borax wagons to Death Valley? We gave them a time frame of 5 years before we were going to have to set those tires again because of humidity, or the lack of it in Death Valley. You know, the average rainfall in Death Valley is 2 inches. You know, it's dry, dry, dry. So one of the things that they tried to do to try to keep these panels from splitting was to put a fabric material inside. And as I have looked at the old material, it really reminds me of cheesecloth. And so that's what I have done, and that's what I need to do next on the inside of these panels. So the main sections we need to coat with this fabric is in between the framework. We don't need to do this because it is double plated with that 3/8 poplar, but these panels and then the 2 panels underneath the seat clear down the side of both sides. The panels underneath this rear seat are a little more interesting to try to kind of fit out, but they also covered those. And then on the step through for the front seat, this little triangle here gets covered also. So right and left sides are the same. Underneath the seats I need about 12 inches. And this front one is maybe roughly 5. Top one is 3.5. These don't have to be a perfect fit. A lot of times you see the old ones kind of folded around these corners. But these are the panels we're going to coat. I'm going to thin down some type on 3. I can brush it on the panel, and then I'll adhere the cheesecloth to that glue. I'll let this set up just a bit so that it doesn't move around so easily, and I'll come back and I'll put a second coat on top of that. These are going to still be the 5 inches. Looks like we need about 8. So by the time I get my second side done, the first side is set up. So I'm going to mix up a second batch of glue, and this one will be a little bit thicker than the first one. This is what really gives that cheesecloth its strength. Well, in talking about the effect of humidity when coaches were built on the East Coast or even in the Midwest, and then they came out to this Western country that was so dry, the detrimental effect that it had. And it's kind of the silent destroyer of carriages. But the reverse is just as well. We have had coaches that we have worked on out here, and then they go back east, they actually take on moisture, and wheels will begin to go into more dish because the hub and spokes are actually beginning to grow and that tire is containing it. So the dish gets greater and greater, so you have to release that pressure. So it goes both directions. We have the same problem today, mainly with museums. Vehicles that are in a controlled climate with artificial heat, artificial air conditioning, and it's constantly sucking moisture out of the air. Even if they are restored here, go into a museum here, that constant air conditioning heating system will continue to draw moisture out of these vehicles, and wheels become loose, cracks start to show up, paint starts to peel, and it's all hovered around humidity or lack of it. Many museums can do something just as simple as putting a 5-gallon open-top bucket of water underneath their vehicles and help them absorb some of that moisture if they don't have humidity-controlled environments. You know, humidity or lack of it is a big deal on these carriages. Anyway, I think this is how they tried to attempt to address some of that drying process on these panels. I don't see it so much in the driver's box. I do see it on the rear panel, but I'm not doing it on here because I'm using that bendable plywood on it. But it seems to be on bent wood because it is, by nature of bending, undergoing some type of stress, and it has a tendency to crack easier when the moisture comes out of it. Side box panels for the driver's box, they crack as well, but I don't see this fabric on those panels as much as I do on these side panels. Anyway, that's how I think they address it, and I continue to address the problem even today. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.